श्री कृष्ण गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कंचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदानेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। बोलो श्री राधे गोलोकानंद भगवान की जय।
जय
बोलो श्रीमद् भागवतम की
जय।
हरे कृष्णा।
हरे कृष्णा।
हाँ, सो हम लोग कल फिफ्थ अध्याय पढ़ रहे थे एंड 30th श्लोक। और जैसा कि हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं, लॉर्ड ब्रह्मा जी सभी देवताओं के साथ क्षीर सागर पहुंचे हैं, श्वेत द्वीप में, विद इन क्षीर सागर विच इज द ओशन ऑफ मिल्क। और वहां पर विष्णु भगवान की प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं देवताओं के साथ, राइट? बिकॉज वी नो दैट देवतास, बिकॉज ऑफ दुर्वासा ऋषि मुनि श्राप, they have lost their power and demons have won. They are ruling the world. So सतोगुण में वापस से स्थापित करने के लिए ब्रह्मा जी देवताओं के साथ विष्णु भगवान की प्रार्थना कर रहे हैं। वेरी ब्लिसफुल ग्लोरिफिकेशन ऑफ लॉर्ड विष्णु। और कल हम लोग पढ़ रहे थे 30th श्लोक। May the supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. Yeah, that's what Brahma ji is praying. Prasidatam na se mahavibhuti. It's calling supreme personality of Godhead mahavibhuti. The supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. Prasidatam. Yeah, and then he's saying that different directions are generated from his ears. Yeah, says Srotra tad disho. From the kan, from the ears, सारी दिशाएं जनरेट होती है. The holes of the body come from his heart. Yeah, यश हृदक्ष खानी, yeah, हृदय से, and प्रजगिरे खम पुरुषस्य नाभ्याम, from नाभि. Yeah, you're getting prana indriya atma su sharir ketah. Yeah, he's saying that the vital force, the senses, the mind, the air within the body, and the ether, which is the shelter of the body, come from his novel, from Napi. So this is how Lord Brahmaji is continuously glorifying Lord Vishnu. We start from Shlok 39. Anil ji?
Yeah. Balan Mahendra Stridasha Prasadaha Smanyorgi Risho Krishnad Virinja Khemestu Chando Chandans Ser Shayo Medrut Tahakaha Prasidatam Nahasa Mahavibhuti. Mahendra, the king of heaven, was generated from the prowess of the Lord. The demigods were generated from the mercy of the Lord. Lord Shiva was generated from the anger of the Lord, and Lord Brahma from his sober intelligence. The Vedic mantras were generated from the bodily hosts of the Lord, and the great saints and Prajapatis were generated from his genitals. May that supremely powerful Lord be pleased with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Again, Prasidatam ne se Mahavibhuti, supreme personality of Godhead, please be pleased with us. Yeah, Ajay?
श्रीवर्चसः पितराच्छाय यासना धर्म स्तनादितरः पृष्ठो अभूत द्रोणयस्य शीर्ष्णो Krishno asparasro viharat prasidatam nah sa mahavibhuti. The goddess of fortune was generated from his chest, the inhabitants of Pitralok from his shadow, religion from his bosom, and irreligion, the opposite of religion, from his back. The heavenly planets were generated from the top of his head, and apsaras from his sense enjoyment. May that supremely powerful personality of Godhead be pleased with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So again, Prasidatam na say Mahavibhutihi. And says Sri Vakshasa, that Sri, the Lakshmi ji, right, is generated from his chest. And so if you see one Tirupati Balaji, right, you will see the Sri Vaksh situated, right, in his chest. Vipro mukhad brahmachayasya gruham Rajanyasit bhujayor balam cha Urvo vidojo adagriveda shudro Idatam nase mahavibhuti. The Brahmins and the Vedic knowledge come from the mouth of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Kshatriyas and bodily strength come from his arms. The Vaishyas, the Vaish, and their expert knowledge in productivity and wealth comes from his thighs. And the Sudras, who are outside of Vedic knowledge, come from his feet. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is full in prowess, be pleased with us. Yeah. So Lord Brahmaji, along with Devatas, continue to glorify Lord Vishnu. And हमने पढ़ा है, right? Second skand वगैरह में how the Virat Swarup of Bhagwan Vishnu is described, right? How Shirodaksha Vishnus and how Virat Swarup, a lot of people meditate on that Virat Swarup, which is all the planets, and also at the same time, how the different Varnas generate from Mahavishnu's avatar, right? So all that is described. Hare Krishna, Nisha.
Hare Krishna. लोभो अधरात प्रीतिरूपर्य बृदद्युति धृतिर्नस्तः पश्यव्यः स्पर्शेन कामः भुवोर्यमः पक्ष्मभवस्तु कालः प्रसीदताम्नः स महाविभूतिः. Greed is generated from his lower lip, affection from his upper lip, bodily luster from his nose, and animalistic lusty desires from his sense of touch, Yamraj from his eyebrows, and eternal time from his eyelashes. May that Supreme Lord be pleased with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And again, who is doing this prayer?
Brahmaji.
Brahmaji, yeah. Brahmaji along with Devata is glorifying Lord Vishnu. And as we had read pehle, char achar, everything is generated from Mahavishnu. That's what is being described by Lord Brahmaji himself. Hare Krishna, Rina ji.
Hare Krishna, Bhaiya. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Dravyam vaya karma gunanvishesham yadyogamaya vihitan vadanti yad durvibhavyam prabudhapabadham prasidatam nah sa mahavibhute. All learned men say that the five elements, eternal time, fruitive activity, the three modes of material nature, and the varieties produced by these modes are all creations of Yog Maya. This material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand, but those who are highly learned have rejected it. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of everything, be pleased with us. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, what it's mentioned is all learned men say that the five elements, yeah, we know those five elements, and eternal time, and the fruitive activities. So dravyam, vaya, karma, and then gunana vishesha. Yeah, gunas, like the three modes of material nature and the varieties produced by these modes are all creations of Yoga Maya. Gunana Vishesham, yeah, Yoga Maya. Yeah, and those three modes of material nature. What are the three modes? What are the three modes of material nature?
Man, buddhi, ahankar.
No. Those are the Suksham Sharir, right? Man, Buddhi, Ahankar are the Suksham Sharir. But there are three modes of material nature, right? Three gunas.
Mode of
Rajogun,
passion, mode of
Tamogun, and
goodness. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. The mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. And those three gunas are very important to know because each of us, right, all the conditioned souls in this materialistic world, when we come in the conditioned soul, we get impacted by those three gunas. All our activities, right? It says karma, fruitive activity, right? Our karmas, sometimes we are in Rajogun, sometimes in Satogun, sometimes in Tamogun, right? So that is what is influencing all our karma and activities. So what is being said is the time, the fruitive activities, karma and gunana vishesham, everything is maya, right? By the external energy of the Lord, is all this is produced, all creations of Yog Maya. So because of that, this material world is therefore extremely difficult to understand. No one can understand this materialistic world, right? Sage here, Vadanti yat durvi bhavyam. But who can understand this? Prabhuda apavadham. It says that, but those who are highly learned, right? The yoga gurus, right? People who are highest level of devotees, right? They understand this, and those have learned have rejected the Yoga Maya. And of course, may the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is controller of everything. So all these things, who controls is Lord Vishnu, and he be pleased with us. That's what Lord Brahma is glorifying Lord Vishnu. Yeah. And the nice purport, let's read this. Anilji.
The word Durvi Bhavyam is very important in this verse. No one can understand how everything is happening in this material world by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his material energies. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.10, Maya Dhyakasena Prakriti Sweta Sakaracharam. Everything is actually happening under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This much we can learn, but how it is happening is extremely difficult to understand. We cannot even understand how the affairs within our body are systematically taking place. The body is a small universe, and since we cannot understand how things are happening in this small universe, how can we understand the affairs of the bigger universe? Actually, this universe is very difficult to understand. Yet, learned sages have advised, as Krishna has also advised, that this material world is dukkhalayam, asashvatam. In other words, it is a place of misery and temporality. One must give up this world and go back home, back to the personality of Godhead. Materialists may argue, if this material world and its affairs are impossible to understand, how can we reject it? The answer is provided by the word Prabhuda Pavadham. We have to reject this material world because it is rejected by those who are learned in Vedic wisdom. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So many things are mentioned in this paragraph, right? Yeah. First of all, it's very difficult to understand this universe, right? As we know that Durvi Bhavyam, that's what we read in this shlok. And why is it difficult also? It says that we don't understand what's happening within our body, right? Our body is a small universe. We don't understand how everything is happening. Food is getting digested. We speak, we run, we do so many things. We don't understand how it's all happening. So how are we going to understand this huge universe? So many things are happening in this universe, right? So it's very difficult for it to understand. But what Lord Krishna is saying is, yeah, Maya Dakshena, yani meri adakshata mein, Prakriti Suyate Sachracharam, Char or Achar, moving objects, non-moving objects, everything in this Prakriti is running within my adakshata, yeah, within my dekrekh. So that's what Lord Krishna himself is saying. So that's one thing. And then what is mentioned here is birth. What is mentioned is this world is dukkhalayam ashvashvatam, right? Place of misery and temporality. Now we definitely know that this is a place of temporality for sure, right? We know that everything we see, yeah, comes and goes and creates and destroys, right, is all temporarily in this materialistic world, right? And we know that some kind of miseries, right? So one must give up this world and go back home, back to the personality of Godhead. And why should we do this, right? Because what is mentioned is this world is rejected by those who are learned in Vedic wisdom. People who have reached to this height, who have understood this, right? It says here, Prabhuda apad vadham. Like the people who are learned have rejected this material world because they know it's temporary, is what is being mentioned. So even though we cannot understand this, we should ready to reject it because of the advice of learned persons, right? Let's read from here, Ajay.
Yeah. Even though we cannot understand what this material world is, we should be ready to reject it in accordance with the advice of learned persons, especially the advice of Krishna. Krishna says, Mam upetya punarjanma dukhalayam asavatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gatah. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the higher perfection. Bhagavad Gita 8.15. One has to return home back to Godhead, for this is the highest perfection of life. To go back to Godhead means to reject the material world. Although we cannot understand the function of this material world and whether it is good for us or bad for us in accordance with the advice of Supreme Authority, we must reject it and go back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So, you know, who is advising us that this materialistic world is not good, right? Who is giving us this opportunity to understand that we really need to go back home, back to Godhead, right? And that is advice is coming directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. Yeah. In Bhagavad Gita, we read this, Mam upetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashvashatam. Yeah. Napunuvanti mahatmana, jo Mahatma hai, who has got the samsiddhim param gata, yeah, who have come to me, the yogis in devotion in bhakti yoga, right? The yogis in devotion, those great souls who attain me, they never return to the temporary world. Yeah, is what is being mentioned. And it's saying because they have attained the highest perfection. So Lord Sri Krishna himself is saying that what is the highest perfection? The highest perfection of life is to go back to Godhead. And to go back to Godhead means to reject this material world. And although we cannot understand this function, whether it's good or bad, and you know, there can be so many philosophical things and so many arguments, and people will say so many thousand different things. We know it's all temporary. And the advice directly from Lord Shri Krishna is that in accordance with the advice of the Supreme Authority, we must reject it and go back home, back to Godhead. Yeah. So that's what is being mentioned here. Hare Krishna, Prem sir.
Hare Krishna, Ravindra bhai. Namostu tasma upshant shatke स्वराज्य लाभ प्रति पूर्तात्मने गुणेषु मायार्चितेषु विभित्ति नर सजमान्य नभ स्वद्वितीये. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is completely silent, free from endeavor, and completely satisfied by his own achievements. He is not attached to the activities of the material world through his senses. Indeed, in performing his pastimes in this material world, he is just like the unattached air. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, so he's just like the unattached air in this materialistic world. Whenever he comes, right? And of course, Upshant Shakti is saying like he's completely silent, free from any and where, completely satisfied, right? We have read previously, full of all those six opulences, right? Not attached to this materialistic world. Even though materialistic world is created by him, he is not attached to this. Puneshu Maya Rachiteshu, it just is external energy. And so, Namo Astu Tashmaya, Lord Brahmaji is continuously praying and glorifying Lord Shri Krishna. Yeah. Nisha?
We can simply understand that behind the activities of material nature is the Supreme Lord, by whose indications everything takes place, although we cannot see him. Even without seeing him, we should offer him our respectful obeisances. We should know that he is complete. Everything is done systematically by his energies. Parasya Saktir Vividhaiva Shruyate, and therefore he has nothing to do. Na tasya karyam karanam cha vidayate. As indicated here by the word upasanta saktaye, his different energies act, but although he sets these energies in action, he himself has nothing to do. He is not attached to anything, for he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, let us offer our respectful obeisances unto him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yeah. Everything in the material world and the spiritual world and everywhere is all caused and done by his external energy and the internal energy and the marginal energy, right? That's why the Supreme Personality is described as Nirgun and all that. We have been reading that, right, in the previous shlokas. Rinaji?
Satsang Darshayatman Masmatkaran Gocharam Prapanna Didrikshunam Sasmitam Te Mukhambujam. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are surrendered unto you, yet we wish to see you. Please make your original form and smiling lotus face visible to our eyes and appreciable to our other senses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, as we know, Lord Brahmaji is praying this, right? And he is requesting Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are surrendered unto you. Yeah. So we want to see you. Yeah. In the Kshir Sagar Svet Deep with Devatas, Lord Brahma is praying to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, that we actually want to see you. We want to see your smiling lotus face visible to your eyes in your original form. Yeah, and appreciable to our other senses. Mukh Ambujam, yeah, the lotus face they want to see. And it's so nice that today is Ekadashi. Happy Ekadashi to everyone, right?
Thank you.
And such an auspicious day. And nice to read Srimad Bhagavatam, right? So let's read this purport again, all nice purports. Prem.
The devotees are always eager to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his original form, with his smiling lotus-like face. They are not interested in experiencing the impersonal form. The Lord has both impersonal and personal features. The impersonalities have no idea of the personal features of the Lord. The impersonalists have no idea of the personal features of the Lord. But Lord Brahma and the members of his disciplic succession want to see the Lord in his personal form. Without a personal form, there can be no question of a smiling face, which is clearly indicated here by the words Sasmitam Te Mukhambujam. Those who are in the Vaishnava Sampradaya of Brahma always want to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are eager to realize the Lord's personal feature, not the impersonal feature. As clearly stated here, Asmat Karana Gocharam, the personal features of the Lord can directly perceived by our senses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So what is mentioned is the Lord has both the features, personal and impersonal features, but originally he is the person. Yeah. the Param Purusham, right? The Purushottam. And that is what the Vaishnavas, the Bhakti Yoga, right? Devotees aim to see the personal form, right? The impersonal form is very difficult to understand, and the impersonal form is just one extension of Lord's personal form, right? So originally it's all personal form, and that's what all the devotees, including Lord Brahma, right, want to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. तेस्ते स्वेच्छा भूते रूपे है काले काले स्वयं विभो कर्म दुर्विषहम यन्नो भगवान स्तत् करोति ही. O Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, by your sweet will you appear in various incarnations, millennium after millennium, and act wonderfully, performing uncommon activities that would be impossible for us, right? So all these impossible activities which we hear different avatars of Bhagwan, yeah, performs in different avatars is of course impossible for us, is what Lord Brahma is saying. Yeah. And a nice paper, let's read. Anilji.
The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam prajamyam. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Thus, it is not an imagination, but a fact that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by His sweet will, appears in different incarnations, such as Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Nrsimha, Vaman, Parashurama, Ramachandra, Balaram, Buddha, and many other forms. Devotees are always eager to see one of the Lord's innumerable forms. It is said that just as no one can count how many waves there are in the sea, no one can count the forms of the Lord. This does not mean, however, that anyone can claim to be a form of the Lord and be acceptable as an incarnation. The incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be accepted in terms of the descriptions found in the Shastras. Lord Brahma is eager to see the incarnation of the Lord, or the original source of all incarnations. He is not eager to see an impostor. The incarnation's activities are proof of his identity. All the incarnations described in the Shastras act wonderfully. Keshava, Dhrata, Mina, Shartra, Jaya, Jagadish, Hare. It is only by the personal sweet will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that he appears and disappears, and only fortunate devotees can expect to see him face to face. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And of course, we have always read this Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanira Bhavati Bharata Abhyuttanam Adharmasya Tadamanam Srijamiyaham. So that's when he descend on this world. Yeah, whenever there is a decline in religious practice, etc. Yeah. Ajay?
क्लेश भूर्यस्य पसाराणि कर्माणि विफलानि वा देहिनां विषयार्थनां न तथैवाकृतं त्वयि. Karmis are always anxious to accumulate wealth for their sense gratification, but for that purpose they must work very hard. Yet, even though they work hard, the results are not satisfying. Indeed, sometimes their work results only in frustration. But devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord can achieve substantial results without working very hard. These results exceed the devotees' expectations. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, we see in the materialistic world, people are working very hard. They're all doing all this for the sense gratification, right? And then at the end of the day, the results are not satisfying still. Karmani viflani va. Yeah. And all this for dehina vishayarthana. All this for sense gratification. But the devotees who are dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord, yeah, they achieve substantial results. even if they don't work very hard, but they are devoted to the Lord and they work in that direction, yeah, those results will exceed the devotees' expectations, is what is mentioned here, right? Rinaji?
We can practically see how the devotees who have dedicated their lives for the service of the Lord in the Krishna consciousness movement are getting immense opportunities for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without working hard. The Krishna consciousness movement actually started with only 40 rupees, but now it has more than 40 crores worth of property, and all this opulence has been achieved within 8 or 10 years. No karmi can expect to improve his business so swiftly, and besides that, whatever a karmi acquires is temporary and sometimes frustrating. In Krishna consciousness, however, everything is encouraging and improving. The Krishna consciousness movement is not very popular with the karmis because this movement recommends that one refrain from illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. These are restrictions that karmis very much dislike. Nonetheless, in the presence of so many enemies, this movement is progressing, going forward without impediments. If the devotees continue to spread this movement, dedicating life and soul to the lotus feet of Krishna, no one will be able to check it. The movement will go forward without limits. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. What is mentioned is devotees who have dedicated their lives to the service of the Lord. In Srimad Bhagavatam is what is being mentioned. Yeah, they always exceed the expectations. Yeah. Anisha?
Navamah karma kalpopi विफलायेश्वरार्पितः कल्पते पुरुषसेव्य सहात्मा दयितो हितः. Activities dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even if performed in small measure, never go in vain. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being the Supreme Father, is naturally very dear and always ready to act for the good of the living entities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, right? Even if you do karma kalpo api, right? Even if you do a small measure, right? We have even read that Patram Pushpam Phalam, right? He is naturally very dear and always ready to act for the good of living entities, is what is mentioned. Yeah. Then a nice purport. So let's read this. Prem.
In Bhagavad Gita 2.40, the Lord says, Swalpam ape asya dharmasya trete mato bhayat. This dharma, devotional service, is so important that even if performed to a very small, almost negligible extent, it can give one the supreme result. There are many instances in the history of the world in which even a slight service rendered to the Lord has saved a living entity from the greatest danger. Ajamila, for example, was saved by the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the greatest danger, that was that of going to hell. He was saved simply because he chanted the name Narayana at the end of his life. When Ajamila chanted this holy name of the Lord, Narayana, he did not chant knowingly. Actually, he was calling his youngest son, whose name was Narayana. Nonetheless, Lord Narayana took this chanting seriously, and thus Ajamila achieved the result of Ante Narayana Smriti, remembering Narayana at the end of life. If one somehow or other remembers the holy name of Narayana, Krishna, or Rama at the end of life, he immediately achieves the transcendental result of going back home, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So even if you perform at a negligible extent, it can help, is what is mentioned here. Right? Anilji?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the only object of our love. As long as we are in this material world, we have so many desires to fulfill. But when we come in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we immediately become perfect and fully satisfied, just as a child is fully satisfied when he comes to the lap of his mother. Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest to achieve some material result by austerity and penance. But when he actually saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said, I do not want any material benediction. I am completely satisfied. Even if one wants material benefit from serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this can be achieved extremely easily without hard labor. Therefore, the Shastra recommends akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udara dhi trivena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. Whether one desires everything or nothing, or desires to merge into the existence of the Lord, he is intelligent only if he worships Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by rendering transcendental loving service. Bhagavatam 2.3.10. Even if one has material desires, one can undoubtedly achieve what he wants by rendering service to the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And yeah, it mentions rendering transcendental loving service. How do we do that? How do we do the devotional service?
Chanting Hare Krishna.
There are 9 ways.
The 9
Right.
ways.
Yeah, chanting Hare Krishna, and there are 9 different ways. How do we surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How do we render the transcendental loving service? Right? If you remember, what are the 9 ways?
Shravanam, Kirtanam,
Archana.
Yeah,
Archanam,
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Ishmaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Dashyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, right? So like that, there are 9 different ways of the devotional service. Nisha?
यथा हि स्कन्दशाखानां तरोर्मूलावसेचनम् एवमाराधनं विष्णोः सर्वेषामा आत्मनश्चिहि. When one pours water on the root of a tree, the trunk and branches of the tree are automatically pleased. Similarly, when one becomes a devotee of Lord Vishnu, everyone is served, for the Lord is the super soul of everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. And again, who is saying this?
Brahmaji.
Brahmaji, right? This message is directly coming from Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma is still doing the glorification, the prayers in the Kshir Sagar with all the devatas of Lord Vishnu. And what he is saying is that if one pours water on the root of a tree, which we already know, right? Says here, Taro Moolva Sechanam, right? If we put water in the root, what happens? It gets to everything. Skanda Shakana. So the whole tree gets the water, right? So similarly, Aradhanam Vishnu. If we do Vishnu's service, if we do Lord Krishna's service, everyone gets it. Everyone means all the devatas and everyone gets that service, right? So that is what is being mentioned. Everyone is served. If we serve Lord Vishnu, Lord Shri Krishna, for the Lord is the super soul of everyone. This is what is mentioned here. Yeah. It says here that if one is trained to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the origin of Vishnu Tattva. Yeah, we have read in the previous skans, right? How the Vishnu Tattva has generated. Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Karnodakshaya Vishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, right? Has come from Lord Shri Krishna, right? We have read that one can become fully satisfied and perfect in all respects. So what is mentioned. Alina ji?
Namastu Bhyamanantaya Durvitarvakyatma Karmane Nirgunaya Guneshaya Sattvasthaya Cha Sampratam. My Lord, all obeisances unto you, who are eternal beyond time's limits of past, present, and future. You are unconceivable in your activities. You are the master of the 3 modes of material nature, and being transcendental to all material qualities, you are free from material contamination. You are the controller of all 3 of the modes of nature, but at the present, you are in favor of the quality of goodness. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So again, Lord Brahmaji is saying that you are Anantaya. Yeah. We offer our obeisances. Namastu Abhya You are Anantaya. Ananta is beyond time's limits of past, present, and future. Yeah, you are inconceivable in your activities. Chantasya, yeah, saying you are the master of the three modes of material nature and being transcendental to all material qualities. You are free from material contamination. Right? Says Nirgunaya. Nirgunaya means is free from the material contamination. Then say Guna Ishaya. Guna Ishaya is all the three gunas we just talked about, right? Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. He is the Ishwar of all those gunas, right? He is the control of all those three modes of material nature. And he's saying Sattva is Taicha Sampratam. What Lord Brahmaji is saying is that you are always in favor of the quality of goodness. Even though you are somehow, you still favor the devotees and mode of goodness. And so let us offer our respectful obeisances unto you. So this, Ajay.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead controls the material activities manifested by the three modes of material nature. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Nirguna Gun Bhokracha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always transcendental to the material qualities, Satogun, Rajogun, and Tamogun. But nonetheless, he is their controller. The Lord manifests himself in three features, as Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. To control these three qualities, he personally takes charge of Satogun as Lord Vishnu, and he entrusts the charge of Rajogun and Tamogun to Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Ultimately, however, he is the controller of all three gunas. Lord Brahma, expressing his appreciation, said that because Lord Vishnu had now taken charge of activities of goodness, there was every hope that demigods would be successful in fulfilling their desires. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
The demigods were harassed by the demons who were infested with Tamoguna. However, as Lord Brahma has previously described, since the time of Sattva Guna had now arrived, the demigods could naturally expect to fulfill their desires. The demigods are supposedly well advanced in knowledge, yet they could not understand the knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Lord is addressed here as Anantaya. Although Lord Brahma knows past, present, and future, he is unable to understand the unlimited knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. So this is how Lord Brahmaji continues to pray. And then this also ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the 8th canto 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Demigods Appeal to the Lord for Protection, right? So these are all the protection prayers which is being done by Lord Brahma along with all the Devatas. Bolo Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Yeah, so we'll pause here. I think a little bit of time, but for 4 to 5 minutes, again, we'll continue to hear the Lord Brahmaji's prayer to Lord Govind, the beginning, right? From the Brahma Samhita. From the Brahmas, Lord Brahmaji's Brahma Samhita is like 100 chapters, like thousands of pages. But a summary of that, right, in one of the chapters, it just shows, I think, 20 to 25 shloks. That's what we are hearing, Lord Brahma's prayer to Lord Govind. And so we had heard a few sloks, and we'll hear again 4 to 5 minutes today.
आदिमूर्तिषु कला नियमेन तिष्ठन् नानावतारमकरोद्भुवनेषु किन्तु कृष्ण स्वयं सम्भवतः परमपुमान्यो गोविन्दमादिपुरुषम् तमहं भजामि यस्य प्रभवतो कोटिष्वशेषवसुधाधिविभूतिभिन्नम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमनन्तमशेषभूतम् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि माया हि यस्य जगदण्डशतानि सूते त्रैगुण्य तद्विषय वेदवितायमाना सत्त्वावलम्बि परसत्त्वं विशुद्धसत्त्वम् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि आनन्दचिन्मयरसात्मतया मनसु यः प्राणिनां प्रतिफलं स्मरताम् उपेत्य लीलायितेन भुवनानि जयत्यजस्रम् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोलोकनाम्नि निजधाम्नि तले च तस्य देवी महेश हरिधाम सुतेषु तेषु ते ते प्रभावनिचया विहिताश्च येन गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि सृष्टिस्थिति प्रलय साधन शक्तिरेका चाएव यस्य भुवनानि बिभर्ति दुर्गा इच्छानुरूपमपि यस्य च चेष्टते सा गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि क्षीरं यथा दधि विकारविशेषयोगा सञ्जायते न हि ततः पृथिगस्ति हेतो यः शम्भुतामपि तथा समुपैति कार्यात् गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि दीपार्चिरेव हि दशान्तरमभ्युपेत्य दीपायते विवृतहेतुसमानधर्म यस्तादृगेव हि च विष्णुतया विभाति गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि
Right, so we'll pause here. Yeah, and we'll continue to hear Lord Brahmaji's stuti. Yeah, next week. And we'll continue to hear this beautiful, right, blissful Lord Brahmaji's prayers, and then see what happens next. The whole thing about Samudra Manthan and how this happens. And we'll have a nice long weekend now, right? have fun, and then we'll see you back on Monday, 9:30 p.m. Yeah?
Okay, Hare Krishna,
Hare
everyone.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, and again, happy Ekadashi.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.